What is up, guys? People have been asking me about the coal item for so long, and now the meta is shifting more. I think it's a good time to go into why it's a lot better than everyone thinks it is, and especially if you ever get behind. This video is in part brought to you by the guys over at Pro Guide, so you can check them out down below. Like this video if you did, dislike it if you didn't, and let's jump in. Now, this isn't just going to be for AD carries, but for now we are going to start with them. The biggest reason coal gets a bad rep, I think, is because Doran's is just considered better. So why would you ever get a coal if we can get that? Well, in fairness, that is kind of true, but not completely. Doran's has an extra 1 AD, 80 health, and 3% lifesteal instead of a 3 flat health on hit that you can get on the coal. So obviously Doran's is better stat-wise and is a very good item by itself, but it's also a dead item. It doesn't build into anything. Eventually you're going to have to sell it, so it's stats for now rather than building for later. In this meta that we've been in with aggressive lanes and how much lane means, we would rather have combat stats now and kill people. With Doran specifically, the 80 health and percent lifesteal helps a lot. It's really a case of if our opponent has that but we don't, then we're likely going to lose fights, so we have no choice but to buy Doran's as well. Now the meta is shifting more into farm lanes and less aggressive support, so we can deal with the tanks. That is where coal comes in. The on-hit life gain is actually more at early levels. With coal, the percent on Doran's means the more AD we have, the more lifesteal we get back. But just to break even with coal, we need 100 AD against minions, even more against champions who have armor. This is one of the biggest differences really stat wise. If we're like a Misfortune or Lucian who build a lot of AD, then the percentage lifesteal will make a big difference mid game when we have a lot of AD and big crits. If we're building attack speed instead, or kind of, well, anything but AD, then on hit becomes just as good. The gold value of it is a very big thing though. Technically this isn't a dead item in the same way as Doran's. It costs 450 gold to start with, but then we get 1 extra gold per minion up to 100 minions, and then you get a 350 bonus, which also disables the extra gold passive. So after 100 minions, this item pays for itself. We get 450 back, then you sell it and you get a profit of 180 gold. It's like an extra tower. It's actually more than a tower would give you. Now this is the interesting thing, okay? So think of it like this when we put it next to Doran's. Doran's is 450 and you sell it for 180. So we have paid 270 gold for those stats when we sell it. Coal, we are gaining 100 gold more than we started with when we sell it. So in theory, we are actually 450 gold better off if we had bought this over a Doran's. So when we put them next to each other, we've gained 180 gold from the coal in profit, right? But if we buy a Doran's, we've lost 270 gold. So the difference between the two is 450, which is a lot bigger. Hopefully this kind of shows you why coal is so much better than people think. We turn our 450 gold into 630 gold with a coal instead of turning it into 180 with a Doran's. This is so good when you're behind. Instead of buying a second Doran's for stats now to help, we can buy a coal, which gives us a few stats plus a net gain of 450 gold once it's stacked, letting us get back into the game more. It isn't just the gold stuff. There are a lot of other reasons coal can be pretty good. We've already said that it's better early for pure life gain because it doesn't rely on AD, though it's not the best idea to get it first, though we are going to go into that later. Runins is really good with coal. Percentage lifesteal is not as good because the AD is reduced on our extra bolts, but on hit is applied fully, meaning we gain the 3 from our main auto plus 3 from each of the extra bolts. If you're going to build a Runins, then coal is actually pretty decent stat wise. Like, this doesn't mean you need to pick it up straight away or first item, anything like that, but at some point throughout the game it would be a good pickup and it won't hurt you as much. The other thing is some champions just don't really build AD, and so percentage lifesteal is not as good. 1000 damage crit from Draven will heal you a lot more with percentage than a Vayne auto that does 200, even if Vayne is attacking a lot more and doing good damage with her bolts. Champions that have a really high attack speed build or just stack attack speed items, or those who don't have much AD like Ezreal and his mana on hit blue build, can benefit a lot from having a coal. When you should actually get a coal is one of the most common questions I get asked, and most of the time it's being, do I start with it? In general, the answer is no, you shouldn't. As we said before, the meta is still kind of aggressive and early stats do count. If we don't have a Doran's, then it's harder to fight and trade, which will end up costing us farm and potentially a few kills or even get us killed. You can get this focus on specific champions or specific situations, like people who benefit a ton from it, but even then you're easier to kill, and it'd only be a good idea with like a Soraka against another passive lane who can't really kill you. This is kind of what I meant with the meta shifting to more tank killers is really important. If we get to a point where everyone just wants to farm early, then Cole could be a good starting item. Before we go into a few times in general that you can buy it, remember that it always requires 100 minions to get that gold. So if we build it mid game or late game when we're grouping and not farming, it will take a very long time and isn't really worth it. In general, just to give you an idea, we farm the most in games before 20 minutes. So the most common one, I think, is if we have to early base, Cole is a good option to go back into lane with. Some more AD and life gain will help you sustain and pay off with some gold at the end of it. A longsword is 10 AD, Cole is 7 plus the gold and life gain, so yes, it's actually fine to get it even though it will delay your item longsword builds into. Even on more aggressive laners like a Lucian or something, if you base and have some spare gold, it's normally good to get this instead of a longsword, but it isn't better to skip a BF sword or pickaxe so you can. Cole is really there for you to farm and get a bonus later. If you want to kill people now and snowball the game and get gold that way, then don't bother getting it. Now this is the biggest one. If you get behind and instead of 2 Dorans, there is almost 0 point you buying 2 Doran's blades now. So yes, it does give you an extra 80 health, but you almost only buy 2 if you're behind. And if you're behind, you don't want to all in fight but sustain back up after being bullied. Remember as well, a big thing is buying Cole instead of a second Doran's will actually give us a net increase of 450 gold at the end of stacking, so it'll help you catch back up in items too. It gives you a few sets now and gives you a profit at the end of it, but it will delay your immediate next item unless you can stack it that fast. So we kind of get our second big item quicker at the cost of getting our first one slower. So who is Cole actually really good on, and who would I recommend you buy it on? So Kog'Maw, Ezreal, Vayne, Sivir, Jinx, Ashe and Kalista all work really well. Even Twitch could work well with it actually. In all honesty, this works on most AD carries if you aren't trying to kill your opponent. In general, if you want to fight and if you want to kill people to get your gold that way, then you don't really want a Cole. These champions all don't really stack AD, so the on-hit life gain is going to be really good for them. Jinx, Ashe, Kalista and Kog'Maw all build runins, which again makes this item even better. Sivir is a bit of a different one though, because she is weak in lane and you pick her for a mid to late game. Getting a Cole on one of your first backs will give you some more lane stats, some more sustain and help you accelerate some mid game a little bit better. For top champions, again, anyone who might buy Dorans could also buy a Cole instead, or if you just want to farm your lane. Nasus, Ken and Gangplank are all good examples of champions that could use it and take advantage. So I hope you guys enjoyed this look at Cole and now hopefully get why it's actually a really good item. Feel free to check out the Pro Guide YouTube or website for some more content to help you improve. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, but for now, let's go to the robots.